everyone. So for this week's video, I decided to record myself at the gym, just doing some exercises so that I can give you some tricks on our different types of joint movements. Let's go. First, we have the shoulder joint. As you know, the shoulder or glenohumeral joint is a ball and socket joint. This means that we can perform flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction, and circumduction. So here you can see my shoulder joint flexing anteriorly and extending posteriorly. Now, as you can see, this is me performing a abduction and a deduction at the shoulder. The way I distinguish between these two is by correlating a deduction with addition. Because during a deduction, we are bringing our arms toward our midline. It is almost like I'm adding my arms to my body. And here I am finishing off with some circumduction by doing some arm rotation. This is a lot more free in comparison to that of our hip joint, which I will explain better later. Next, we have the elbow joint. As you know, this is a hinge joint, so the movement only occurs in one axis. This motion is flexion and extension again, so as you can see, while I'm flexing at the elbow, my forearms move more anteriorly. Now, while I'm extending at the elbow, my arm is moving more posteriorly. The elbow is a simple hinge joint, but the knee is a little bit more complicated, as we will soon see. Now I'm going to talk to you about the hip joint. As previously mentioned when I was talking about the shoulder, this is also a ball and socket joint. So the hip can complete the same movements as our shoulder. However, when it comes to circumduction, we're a little more limited than in our shoulder. This is because we need our hip girdle to be a little more stable in order to support us when we walk, stand, run, etc. The hip joint flexes and extends anteriorly and posteriorly respectively, and it performs AB and adductions as we can see right here. Now I would like to talk to you guys about the knee. The reason I decided to explain it in this order is because there's an important difference between flexion and extension at the knee in comparison to that of the rest of our limbs. When we flex at our knee, our leg moves posteriorly, and when we extend, it moves anteriorly. Every other joint above our knee flexes anteriorly and extends posteriorly, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some of our ankle movements. So I'll just take you through each movement pretty slowly. First, we have plantar flexion. So this right here is an example of me plantar flexing at the ankle, which is essentially pointing our toes away from the rest of the body. Meanwhile, dorsiflexion is when we point our toes towards ourselves, more upward towards the rest of our body. Now, the bottom of our feet is called our plantar surface. So this is what I use to help me remember the difference between plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. Plantar flexion is when we are essentially pointing our toes in the direction of our plantar surface, while dorsiflexion is the opposite. Then we have inversion and eversion. So I decided to demonstrate this at the ankle by doing one of the walking drills that I used to do when I was still doing track in high school. Not to toot my retired high school athlete horn or anything, haha. But I remember these by thinking inversion, toes inward, while eversion is like our toes are escaping the body, so they're pointing outward. Inversion in, eversion escape. Now I want to show you guys pronation and supination. So first, this is me performing supination. The way I remember this is by saying supine spine, because when something is supine, it is laying on the backside. So in this video, I am turning the back of my hand towards the floor in a supine position. For pronation, I think of my palm in this case with the upper limbs. So the palm of our hands are on the anterior or front aspect of our hand. By turning my palm towards the floor, I'm performing pronation. So remember, supine spine and pronation palm. Now we have protraction and retraction. So the common example I tend to see is when we're talking about our mandible. However, our scapula also performs this motion. When I hear protraction, I think protrude. And when I hear retraction, I think return. So whenever I'm protracting, I'm pushing on the walls that my scapula is going to protrude from our back. And in retraction, the scapula is moving back. finally, I just wanted to finish off by showing you guys opposition at our thumb. Now remember, the thumb is a saddle joint, and this is what it essentially looks like. We are opposing our other fingers. Here it is again in slow motion for you guys. Opposition. And that's the end of this week's video, and I just want to wish you guys the best of luck on your exams this week. Bye!